In May of 2020, Yenia Garcia and a friend returned to the former's parked car in Scottsdale, Arizona, to find that the windshield had been badly cracked. She consequently flagged down bike cop Nicholas Fay. He approached the duo alongside Scottsdale Police Supervisor Sergeant Ben Steele. Garcia didn't receive the assistance she'd hoped for, as one of the cops told her, "Here's the deal. We kind of already know what's going on." He warned Garcia not to lie before accusing her that she'd been involved in a hit and run in which a pedestrian had been hurt. Steele proceeded to read Garcia her Miranda rights, telling her and her friend, "Don't make faces like you don't know what I'm talking about." For roughly 45 minutes, Garcia insisted she was innocent, and her friend showed the police card transactions indicating they'd just been at a bar. Garcia urged the officers to question nearby security guards and to check surveillance footage from the area. Fay and Steele refused to do so, claiming that the car's hood was still warm, that they'd seen it pull into the parking space moments prior, and that there were pieces of broken glass in Garcia's clothing, which later proved to be a complete fabrication. Garcia was arrested on 2 counts of DUI and failure to stop at the scene of an accident causing injury or death. At the station, she was asked to strip in front of 2 female police officers so that the supposed glass on her clothes could be examined. Police had also obtained a warrant to take blood from her for a toxicology analysis. When Garcia asked to see it, as was her legal right, she was reportedly refused and told, "Put your arm out so we don't have to tie you down like an animal." Garcia was released after complying with the officer's orders and subsequently hired an attorney. He obtained surveillance footage from the parking lot, which showed a stranger jumping on her hood and stomping on her windshield a full hour before she'd returned to the car. Had Fay and Steele checked the surveillance footage like the woman had asked, her arrest would have likely been avoided. The charges against the woman were dropped after her attorney sent the police the clip. Aside from the harrowing experience of being wrongfully charged with a crime, the incident had nearly cost Garcia her job. Her employer considered terminating her position after seeing her mugshot in news reports. In May of 2021, Garcia filed a federal lawsuit against the department and the officers involved in the arrest. Number 6. Porsha Woodruff. As she was preparing her 2 children for school on February the 16th of 2023, Detroit woman Porsha Woodruff saw 6 police officers approaching her home. 32-year-old Woodruff was shocked upon being shown an arrest warrant in her name for robbery and carjacking. The woman, who was a month away from giving birth, was handcuffed and taken to the local jail. She spent the day in a cell and was later released on a $100,000 personal bond. Woodruff experienced dehydration while she was being detained and subsequently had to be taken to a medical center after complaining of sharp pain, muscle spasms, and panic attacks. She was completely innocent of the crimes with which she was being charged. Less than 3 weeks earlier, an unnamed 25-year-old man had picked up a woman and they had relations after drinking together in his car at a BP gas station. He then dropped her off in the area, at which point a man with a pistol ambushed him, took his wallet, and drove off in his Chevy Malibu. The assailant was arrested a few days later. A woman matching the victim's description of his female accomplice was captured on CCTV at the gas station. Detective LaShontia Oliver requested a facial recognition search by independent vendor DataWorks Plus on the footage. Woodruff was suggested based on a 2015 mugshot that she had on record after having been pulled over for driving without a license. Her photo was among a lineup of several others shown to the victim, and he mistakenly pointed to her as the culprit, leading to her arrest. The charges against Woodruff were dropped 18 days later. She filed a lawsuit against Oliver, alleging that the detective stated in detail in her report what she observed in the video footage, and there was no mention of the female suspect being pregnant. Number 5. Does Nika kill Patrick? On February the 21st of 2021, the Collinsville Police Department in Illinois received reports of an armed robbery at 258 Skyline View Drive. The female victim had allegedly agreed to sell marijuana to another woman, but upon arrival, the former and her companions were ambushed by 2 armed men. They were robbed of drugs and money, while the victim was also pistol whipped. An investigation unfolded over the next few days, and the police received information, which later proved to be inaccurate, that an out-of-state white BMW had been involved in the incident. At around 8 a.m. on March the 1st, Nika Kilpatrick and her teenage brother were sitting in a parked white BMW with out-of-state plates on Summit Avenue in Collinsville. Officers mistook them for the suspects and approached the vehicle with weapons drawn. Frightened and confused, Kilpatrick and her brother were placed in handcuffs and taken to the back of the police cruiser. Kilpatrick later spoke to the media saying, "I was so afraid, like I couldn't stop shaking. I couldn't stop crying. I just knew that this was not real. We didn't do anything to deserve this." Officers soon realized they'd made a mistake. According to the official police statement on the incident, the brother and sister were released from the scene with an explanation and an apology. Roughly 7 minutes after the initial traffic stop, Kilpatrick, however, revealed that the apology did little to comfort her, as the experience had left her traumatized and distrustful of law enforcement. Number 4. Geral English. On July the 20th of 2023, law enforcement in Kenosha, Wisconsin, responded to a serious hit-and-run accident of which witnesses told them that they'd seen the suspects, 2 black men and a woman with a young child, run into a nearby Applebee's. Officers entered the establishment and approached Geral English, who was carrying his 1-year-old son. English was joined by a woman named Shania Boyd. As reported by Jennifer Harris, the Applebee's manager working that night, the police demanded English show them the car he'd come with so that they could determine if he'd taken part in the accident. English told them to go away and that he needed to change his son's diaper. He was still holding the child in his arms when he tried to walk away, but he was tackled into a wall by the officers. The altercation that followed was captured on bystander cell phone video. The baby was ripped from English's arms after the police had brought him to the ground. Pepper spray was reportedly deployed, and one officer was seen raining down punches on English while yelling at him to put his hands behind his back. While trying to hold back tears, Harris would later tell a media outlet, "It's just sad. I just felt bad for the baby that he had to go through that traumatic event." It would emerge that English and Boyd had had nothing to do with the hit and run. The real suspects had actually been hiding in the bathroom the entire time. Nevertheless, English was arrested on charges of disorderly conduct and resisting police, while Boyd was arrested on the same charges with an additional charge of marijuana possession. Footage of the incident sparked outrage online, and community activists protested outside the Kenosha Safety Building in the days that followed. The police department announced that it had launched an internal investigation to determine if the use of force from its officers was more robust than what the state requires. Updates from late August of 2023 indicated that rapper Jay-Z's Team Rock Nation's Philanthropic and Social Justice Division, had intervened to help English by hiring decorated attorney Alex Spiro. The latter goal was to get the charges dropped and potentially sue Kenosha law enforcement. Manager Harris also hired an attorney when she was terminated after having worked at Applebee's for 12 years. She reported, "They told me they can't trust me and that I didn't just ruin this Applebee's name, I ruined all the Applebee's in Wisconsin's name by letting these videos get out." However, Harris denied both recording the videos and posting them online. Number 3. Ryan Gould. In May of 2023, Ryan Gould went swimming in the community pool of his Sabal Ridge apartment complex in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, as he routinely did for his workout. A woman then approached the pool and asked Gould to swim elsewhere, even though, as surveillance footage indicated, there didn't seem to be anyone else in the pool at the time. Gould refused to leave, and the woman began swimming perpendicular to his path, repeatedly interrupting him. Gould waited on a ladder for his turn, but eventually asked the woman if she could use the longer length of the pool so that they could both swim at the same time. The woman then got out and called her boyfriend. He arrived at the scene and argued with Gould before, as captured by CCTV, he lifted his shirt, flashing a concealed pistol. Gould backed away from the armed man, gathered his possessions and left the area before calling 911 to report the incident. Upon reaching the complex, a Palm Beach Gardens officer went to the pool area and talked with the man and woman who'd threatened Gould. They were reportedly arrested. Then Officer Bethany Guerrero arrived at the scene, marched towards Gould and, inexplicably, started yelling orders at him. The latter, still wet and only wearing his swimming trunks, was confused and started waving, trying to direct her attention to the pool area. He reached into his pocket and grabbed his phone, but Guerrero ordered him to stop reaching. She brandished her service weapon, her hands shaking with anger, and ordered Gould to the ground. The officer reportedly told him to be quiet, saying, "I've been here for 20 years, punk. I'm in charge, not you." The more Gould tried to explain he was the victim, the angrier the officer got. The two-time victim was thus handcuffed and arrested, but neither he nor the other officers had any idea why. They nevertheless went ahead with Guerrero's decision, trusting that the veteran officer had seen something they missed. Video surveillance clips of the wrongful arrest went viral on social media, some of them titled "Innocent Man Arrested by Unhinged Cop." Such had been Guerrero's rage that she left the scene in an ambulance after her heart rate spiked and she complained of chest pain. Gould was taken to jail, with body cam footage, CCTV clips, and statements from all the other officers at the scene would fully absolve him of any guilt. Guerrero herself would claim to have confused him with the gun owner, but the statement reportedly didn't align with her behavior at the scene, as she hadn't taken cover behind her police vehicle, hadn't searched Gould for a gun, or even asked if he was armed. In the wrongful arrest wake, Gould stated that he was an easygoing guy who could forgive and forget, before adding, "But being kidnapped from your home at gunpoint seems like where I need to draw the line." An internal review of the incident and Guerrero's past offenses produced a 126-page investigative report that led to the 19-year veteran being fired from the force. The disgraced officer's past transgressions included using the police database to stalk a former partner, behaving inappropriately towards a person under arrest, and leaving her AR-15 rifle inside her patrol car, which was then burglarized. Today's topic was requested by Master Cyrus 8. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Julie Hudson. In early January of 2023, Philadelphia PhD candidate Julie Hudson, aged 31, went to a local police station after finding out that there was a warrant out for her arrest. She'd faced trouble finding a rental property and failed job interviews due to background checks. Hudson went to clear her name, but was arrested instead and set for extradition to Texas, where the warrant originated. The woman had never even been to Texas. It eventually emerged that Hudson shared a name with a woman suspected of shoplifting in Harris County, even though she'd gone to the station voluntarily to mend an obvious error. Hudson would spend 6 days locked up due to paperwork and communication issues between the Philadelphia and Harris County authorities. She reported to have been detained in horrible conditions prior to being released on January the 11th and subsequently issued an apology by the authorities. Hudson and her lawyer, Shaka Johnson, publicly shared the story on Good Morning Philadelphia. Hudson's stated objective was to ensure that innocent people wouldn't have to go through the same experience. The woman recalled that she'd been repeatedly told it was a common mistake before she poignantly pointed out it shouldn't be. Our episode about when honest mistakes go very wrong is lined up straight after number 1 for those of you who haven't seen that one yet. Keep watching if you'd like. Number 1. Jorge Molina. 24-year-old Arizona man Jorge Molina was approached by Avondale police at his Macy's job and arrested on murder charges. In December of 2018, Molina had become the primary suspect in the killing of 29-year-old Joseph Knight. In March of 2018, Knight was fatally shot 9 times outside of his Avondale apartment, and the police had struggled to find the person responsible during the investigation that followed. The only piece of evidence available to them was grainy surveillance footage of a white Honda with an unreadable license plate recorded at the scene of the shooting. Investigators asked for help from Google, requesting geofence information on all the accounts active in the area around the time of the murder. 4 accounts were provided, including Molina's, who coincidentally drove a white Honda. The man spent 6 days in jail before the case against him fell apart and prosecutors declined to press charges. By then, however, it was too late, as he'd been fired from his job. In 2020, Molina sued the police, seeking $1.5 million in damages. The suit alleged defamation, gross negligence, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. In the wake of the arrest, Molina was unable to find employment as he failed background checks, and news of the arrest also featured prominently whenever his name was Googled. Additionally, the suit noted that the Google data should have never been used as evidence because the company allowed multiple users to be simultaneously logged into one account from multiple devices and locations. Moreover, the data couldn't actually identify the owner of the device, nor the phone number or IP address associated with the device. Molina's lawyers found multiple past discrepancies in his location data, which they claimed should have been regarded as a disqualifying factor. In one case, Google records showed that he was at his mother's workplace in Scottsdale, when Molina's debit card transactions indicated he'd actually been making a purchase 30 miles away at a Walmart. An elderly tourist by the name of Margaret Barnes was murdered after mistaking a stranger's house in Barmouth, Gwynedd, Wales, for her bed and breakfast on July the 11th of 2022. She'd been out with a friend and returned with her suitcase and handbag to what she thought was the Wavecrest B&B. When 71-year-old Barnes climbed into bed, she was discovered by the homeowner, David Redfern. Furious, the man dragged his uninvited house guest down the stairs by the ankles and violently stomped her multiple times. 46-year-old Redfern then threw Barnes's luggage out into the street and allegedly mocked her as she tried to gather them. She began experiencing breathing problems due to the injuries she'd suffered and ended up dying soon after. The coroner described her injuries as being consistent with a high-speed collision. The official cause of death was determined to be severe blunt force trauma. Her ribs had been broken and she had a fractured neck as well as a ruptured liver. Redfern admitted having anger issues but denied having murdered the victim, explaining she'd been aggressive toward him when he had discovered her in his home, and he had merely been trying to defend his girlfriend, who was also present at the residence. He was found guilty in March of 2023 and consequently given a life sentence with a minimum term of 14 years. Number 10. Brittany Howard. Texas woman Brittany Howard from the city of Alvin was shot in the face while attempting to save her father's life on January the 14th of 2017. She'd reportedly rushed to her parents' home after receiving a call from her mother saying her father was acting strange. When she arrived, Howard came upon the man carrying a gun. She tried to take it away from him, at which point the weapon accidentally discharged, leaving Howard gravely injured. The bullet penetrated nearly 2 inches into her frontal lobe. She would undergo 3 surgeries, including skin grafts and the placement of a metal plate in her head, and was expected to require at least 3 more procedures before making a full recovery. Howard recognized that it was a freak accident and didn't blame her father for her injuries. The man was nevertheless charged with aggravated assault with a weapon. Number 7. Zique Pullins. Zique Pullins, daughter of singer Tiny Harris and stepdaughter of well-known rapper T.I., was arrested after bringing a gun to the Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta on June the 16th of 2016. The 20-year-old singer and social media starlet claimed it was a mistake, as she'd been running late for a flight and forgot she was carrying the weapon on her. She admitted, however, to acting irresponsibly and publicly apologized for her actions. Pullins was detained by airport authorities when they discovered the Ruger semi-automatic pistol in her purse as it went through the X-ray machine. She initially thought she would only be asked to take the firearm to her car or throw it away, but quickly realized she was getting arrested when police were called to the scene. Pullins was ordered to take a gun training course, pay a $500 fine, and complete 60 hours of community service. If she completed those tasks within 90 days, the judge decreed that her criminal charge would be dropped altogether. Number 8. James Hodges. Police in Lake City, Florida arrested 61-year-old James Hodges, a legally blind man, after mistaking his folded cane for a gun on October 31st of 2022. The entire incident was recorded by body cams being worn by Deputy Jamie Gould and her supervisor, Sergeant Randy Harrison. Although Hodges told the officers he was carrying a navigational aid, they continued questioning him on the street, insisting the cane looked like a weapon. He refused to show the officers his ID, explaining they had no reason to request it in the first place. The situation continued to escalate to the point where Hodges was arrested for resisting an officer and obstruction. An investigation was launched on November 3rd and concluded 3 days later. Both officers involved were suspended without pay. Harrison was demoted and wouldn't be eligible for favorable actions for 2 years. Both he and Gould were also ordered to undergo civil rights training. Number 7. Stacy Holly. On June the 16th of 2019, a 37-year-old Arizona resident was arrested for leaving one of her daughters in the car while she went shopping at Target. CCTV footage showed the child locked in the vehicle for over 50 minutes with a registered temperature of 99 degrees Fahrenheit. Police were called to the scene by the young girl's mother, Stacy Holly, who realized her mistake upon returning to the car with her 6-year-old child, who she'd brought inside the store. The baby was taken to the hospital, where she was treated for dehydration. Holly told officers she'd forgotten the child was in the back seat. She insisted she was not a bad mother, but admitted she should be arrested for the mistake. Responding officers asked the woman if she was under the influence, which she denied. Holly faced charges of child abuse and child endangerment, to which she reportedly pleaded not guilty. Number 6. Brian Fletcher. A utility tower climber from North Carolina was arrested on June the 28th of 2015 for carrying his firearm across state lines while traveling to New Jersey for work. While Brian Fletcher and his crew awaited further instructions for the job in a parking lot in Trenton, a police officer approached, inquiring as to their activities. Fletcher handed over his ID and informed the officer he was carrying a firearm in his truck. Unaware that New Jersey didn't recognize gun permits from other states, he was arrested and charged with a Class 2 felony and only released after paying a $25,000 bond. Fletcher faced up to 36 months probation but denied doing anything wrong, as he reported possessing a gun to the officer in accordance with North Carolina law, which he believed was the same in New Jersey. It was unclear how the case ultimately played out as of the most readily available updates. Number 5. Courtney Nicole Fowler. Courtney Nicole Fowler, a 23-year-old mother from Madison, North Carolina, was charged with a felony for bringing a loaded gun into her son's classroom on March the 20th of 2018. During a subsequent court hearing, the young woman labeled it an honest mistake, claiming she hadn't intended to bring the pistol, which had 1 round in the chamber and 12 other bullets in the magazine. Fowler explained she'd been distracted after learning her grandmother had taken ill. It wasn't until she'd already left the Mars Hills Elementary School building with her son that a teacher confronted her about the weapon. The charge of carrying a pistol on educational property carried a maximum penalty of 24 months behind bars. Number 4. Veronica Rutage. 29-year-old Veronica Rutage was accidentally shot by her young son in an Idaho Walmart on December the 30th of 2014. She'd been shopping with her son and nieces while carrying the weapon in a specially adapted purse her husband had gifted her for Christmas. At some point, the toddler reached into her handbag and accidentally fired the gun, discharging a bullet into his mother at point-blank range. Rutledge's family defended her against people who criticized her for carrying a loaded weapon around young children, explaining she'd acquired a concealed weapons permit and was generally a responsible gun owner. Number 3. Martinez. Adeline Martinez, a 20-year-old Mexican woman, was accidentally shot to death in Chihuahua while filming a staged kidnapping for TikTok on October the 2nd of 2020. 10 people had been participating in the video's recording, during which 2 men accidentally fired their guns. One of the bullets struck Martinez, and the group fled the scene before law enforcement arrived. The video showed her blindfolded and bound inside a farmhouse along with another man, also playing the role of a hostage. 2 men waved their guns around, pretending to threaten the pair. Moments later, one of the weapons was accidentally discharged, though the incident wasn't caught on camera. Number 2. Frany Marcos. An accidental shooting unfolded at a house in Pembroke Pines, Florida on June the 11th of 2022. According to subsequent reports, Frany Marcos, aged 24, was at her fiancé's home when she began playing around with a firearm. Her fiancé's teenage son, Achilles Lopez, was getting ready to leave for dinner with his brothers and a close friend, who told the woman not to play with the gun. However, Marcos didn't listen, laughing as she pointed it at the family dog before firing it in Lopez's direction. While the teen bled profusely on the floor, Marcos called 911, frantically informing the operator of the urgent situation. First responders rushed the victim to the ER, but he died from his injuries soon after. The young woman was arrested for manslaughter about a month later. As of March of 2023, Marcos had yet to be tried for the shooting. Number 1. Christy Louise Jones. On July the 22nd of 2022, Christy Louise Jones attempted to set fire to her ex-boyfriend's house in Rowan County, North Carolina, but accidentally burnt down a neighbor's residence instead. The 49-year-old woman had reportedly been trying to get revenge on her former lover when she started a fire in the address she believed he lived at shortly before 7:30 a.m. The homeowner woke up to find burning wood drenched in chainsaw oil placed around his house and attempted to stop the fire, only to discover Jones had plugged up the house with a rubberizing liquid. The man noticed Jones standing nearby and confronted her, but she managed to flee the scene as the police approached. The homeowner gave authorities her license plate number, leading to her arrest. She was charged with first-degree arson, assault with a deadly weapon, and larceny of an animal, having stolen one of the man's dogs as well. She was held on a $101,500 bond while awaiting her case's next steps. Thanks for watching. Would you rather be operated on by a one-eyed surgeon or be represented in court by your most recent ex? Let us know in the comments section below.